Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Zach. I recently attended Dead by Dog Volume 1 in Youngstown, Ohio. Um, Additionally, I attended the Pre-Fest in Cleveland and the Hells Headbangers Open House. And yeah, I just want to give my thoughts and opinions about the fest and kind of what I thought about everything. So yeah, if you see some smoke behind me, I got some ribs on the grill. So no need to be concerned. Got my 805 here. First, I just want to give a shout out to Justin Horval for kind of making this whole thing happen. He had a vision, put it together, and I think it turned out really well. Additionally, I have to give a huge, huge shout out to Jeremy Buck. Jeremy is a very good friend of mine. He put on the pre-show in Cleveland, which we'll get to, and he made it free for anyone to attend, and I just can't thank him enough for everything he's done for me, over the years, and just been a great friend. Just an awesome guy. So yeah. Additionally, got to shout out Jeremy's wife, Lisa Buck. She's awesome as well. Bob, Dan, and Jonah, who I came to Cleveland with from Sacramento. Guys are great also. So yeah, the six of us, Jeremy Buck, Lisa, myself, Dan, Bob, Jonah, we all came out from Northern California together, had an Airbnb together. Yeah, it was a great time. Want to give a couple shout outs too. So want to give a shout out to the YouTuber Cattle Prod. I had a chance to talk to him quite a bit for both days, and he's an awesome dude. Highly recommend checking it out. His YouTube channel, again, it's Cattle Prod. Super good dude, real dude. Next we have Johnny, or John, from Connecticut. We met him at the Hells Open House. He was passing out free beer in his cooler and grilling hot dogs and hamburgers, and we just got to talking to him, and turns out he's an awesome dude. Who would have guessed, right? And we pretty much spent both days with him the entire time, and yeah, awesome dude. Really glad to have met him. Hopefully we can hang out again someday in the future if you ever get out to California, or I get out there to New England. Additionally, we have Jacob and Chris from Kentucky. They kind of partied with us pretty hard at Dead by Dog and the pre-fest as well. Awesome dudes there. Additionally, the YouTuber Travels with a Headbanger. I first saw him and I was like, man, this guy looks really familiar. And eventually I go up to him and I'm like, hey man, like, where do I know you from? And we get to talking, and turns out he lives in the same town as me. And that's why he looks familiar. So had no connection to him prior to this, but meeting someone from your hometown that you don't know on the other side of the country is pretty awesome. Turns out I've actually seen one of his bands that he's in somewhat recently live as well too, so that's probably where I initially recognized him from. So yeah, shout out to him, shout out to his son as well. Really awesome people. I'm sure I'll be seeing them around North California again. Yeah, there was a lot of people I met, and I'd love to shout them all out, but honestly, off the top of my head, it's kind of hard to remember everyone I met. But everyone was super awesome. If I didn't mention you, don't mean anything by it. It's just it was a lot. So first thing, we get to the airport in Sacramento, and hilariously enough, there's a guy wearing a blood incantation hoodie standing in our line to get on the plane with us. So of course, we're going to Cleveland, we're going to Dead by Dog. So I approach him and I'm like, hey man, like, you going to Cleveland? And he's like, oh no, I'm going to Chicago or wherever he was going, and I was like, oh yeah, we're going to a death metal fest. And he's like, oh, what fest? And oh, we're going to Dead by Dog. And of course, never heard of Dead by Dog, never heard of Hell's Headbangers, never heard of J-Dawg. Sometimes the jokes just write himself, but no disrespect to that guy. He was a nice guy. He seemed very cool. But I just thought it was funny. Funny way to start off the kind of weekend. But getting into it, so first things first is the Hells Headbangers Open House. So I just want to say shout out to all the staff behind the scenes that's working there at Hells. I wasn't aware how many of you guys were there, but you guys were all awesome, super cool people. You handled the business very professionally. I'm sure it was chaotic as all hell for you guys, but just want to say you guys were all awesome. Of course, the Horval brothers, the ones that I met there, and then later at the show. All of them were super cool guys to talk to, very down-to-earth individuals. I do want to show off some of the records that I picked up. So here we have Bestial Warlust, Blood and Valor. I got Gorguts, Considered Dead. Manila Road, Crystal Logic. And lastly, Nunslaughter's Angelic Dread. Oops, sorry, I said that kind of funny. Honestly, I would have bought a lot more, but I was just sort of overwhelmed by Hell's Headbangers. I mean, their selection is insane. And if you went there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just how much they have it's overwhelming. I mean, it's really an incredible thing they've got there. On top of that, it was hot as hell in that warehouse, and it was a lot of people, very chaotic and in a good way, a lot of energy. It was just kind of hard to focus and to really kind of lock it in, to look through all those vinyls to find, more stuff. But, that's a me problem, so it is what it is. So moving on, pre-show at No Class in Cleveland, Ohio. Again, I want to shout out the venue No Class, the staff working there. They were all awesome, treated us super well. Again, I want to shout out Jeremy Buck for booking this show and making it completely free. The venue was awesome, good drinks, awesome food truck out back. The spot itself was real cool. The sound quality was on point. In terms of sets, Mulder played first, and they were awesome. Can't really ask for a better lineup, and then kicking it off with Mulder. Unfortunately, when bands open, sometimes it's a bit awkward. The crowd's not really super into it yet or warmed up per se, but that was no fault of their own. They played a great set. And same with Vincent Crowley. It was kind of the same thing, really awesome set, but it didn't really seem like the crowd was very energized for it. But yeah, Vincent Crowley, that guy's a legend. Just seeing him up there is so intense. He has such stage presence, up there, and it was really cool to see him. I was really looking forward to that. Next was Nunslaughter, and don't know what else to say about Nunslaughter. Every time I see them, they're just absolutely amazing, and that was no different. Just such a fun set. Can't speak highly enough of that band. And same with Deceased. Been just like Nunslaughter, been around for a very long time. Very consistent with their music, and yeah, they put on a great set. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the fact that was a free show is just mind-blowing. So, on to Dead by Dog. So, Dead by Dog was held in Youngstown, Ohio at West Side Bowl. It was about an hour and 10-minute drive from where we were staying in Cleveland, so it was definitely a little bit of a drive. With that said, got to give props to the West Side Bowl, all the people that worked there. They did an excellent job. Everyone was super cool, very nice. Security, everyone acted very professionally and courteously. No complaints at all about the venue. And speaking of which, it's a pretty interesting spot. It's a huge venue. They have a bowling alley, pinball machines, an arcade, an old-timey diner in the front. Awesome beer selection, so can't really say enough about the venue. So in terms of the sets, I'll try to keep it brief. Rotten UK opened, and me personally, I'm just not a fan of Rotten UK. It's nothing against them, it's just not my style of music. And same with Lurking Corpses, so I'll just put those two together as bands that I'm sure they're great. For some people, just for me personally, I'm not a fan. Up next was Rotrevor, which they were awesome. I will say I was very, very much looking forward to seeing Regurgitation live. And Rotrevor really isn't a one-for-one replacement per se, but with that said, in their own right, they were awesome. So I'm not going to complain about that. Up next was the Lurking Corpses, which I already kind of touched on. So the next set was Evil Army, and for me, that's really where the show kind of really picked up. They came out. I mean, those dudes are awesome. Had a chance to talk with them a couple times, and super nice guys, super cool. Great set, fun to see live, lots of energy. Highly recommend checking them out if you haven't listened to them before. Up next was Malignancy. brutal death metal band. They were awesome. Shout out to the drummer. That guy is just on another level. But yeah, just brutal death metal 101. Don't know what else to say. They were awesome. Up next was Profanatica. And so funny enough, if you were at the show, so I was the gentleman. I got up on top of Jeremy Buck's shoulders and ripped up the Bible during Profanatica's set, and tossed it into the crowd for the wolves to rip it up. That's something we had done before in Sacramento, and it was something we kind of planned way ahead of time that we wanted to do. So, we picked up a Bible, and yeah, it was a really good time. I felt like that set became real intense in the crowd after that moment, and I was just happy to be a part of it. Yeah, love those guys. Profanatica, man, they're awesome. And lastly, Attic. So I kind of assumed that after Profanatica and Malignancy, Evil Army, that Attic was kind of going to be a little bit of a slower burn type of set, and I feel like that was accurate. The energy was kind of zapped out of the building when they played, and musically they aren't, I wouldn't say the most energetic band to see live. I mean, they're an awesome band, and I like them a lot when I listen to them. It's just where they were placed in the set, which no fault of their own. It was just kind of slow, but that's just minor gripes. But yeah, overall, I thought Dead by Dog was awesome. Again, shout out to Justin Horval for making that happen. It was pretty funny, right after he announced it, or very shortly after he announced it, which, I mean, he says he gave us a year notice, so I guess it was a year ago. Jeremy Buck hit me up, and he's like, hey man, I got a crazy idea. You want to go to Cleveland to go see Dead by Dog? And without hesitation, I said, yeah, I'm in. He told me I wouldn't regret it. It'd be the most fun I've ever had at a show, and it was a great time. And overall, with the open house, the pre-show, of course, Dead by Dog, I really think coming out from California was totally worth it. I mean, just for the people that we got to meet and hang out with alone was totally worth it. And then to see all these awesome bands play, can't really ask for much more than that. But yeah, my last kind of thoughts are, and this is just me, my perspective, if they were to do, a Dead by Dog Volume 2, I think it would be a wise move if they were to do it in Ohio to move the fest to Cleveland. And the only reason I say that, J-Dawg had pointed out in some of his videos before that the Cleveland metal scene does not always show up for these underground metal events or shows per se. And everyone that I met, for the most part, it seemed like 9 out of 10 people traveled to Dead by Dog. I met very, very few people from Cleveland there. Everyone was from somewhere else. And just in my opinion, we're gonna travel anyways, right? And I think the turnout could have been a little bit better if it was in Cleveland, because if they aren't gonna drive to Youngstown, maybe just have it in Cleveland. Throw the locals a bone per se. If they're not gonna come, just throw it locally, and probably more people are gonna come out, and that's just more money in the pocket of Justin, Hell's Headbangers and all that good stuff. That's just my opinion though. Overall, like I said, it was an awesome time. Happy to be there. If you met me, say what's up in the comments, or if you went, I'd love to hear what you thought about it. Probably not going to be making videos on a regular basis like this. It's kind of like a one-off thing, but yeah, I just wanted to get my opinions out there. Again, shout out to J-Dawg, shout out to all the Horval brothers, everyone at Hell's Headbangers, No Class, West Side Bull, and all the bands. It was a great time. Cheers.